What's up, everybody? So we're back out in the shop with another daily vlog, and boy, it's pretty cold out here today. I'm starting off the day with it about 30 degrees. It's supposed to get warmer throughout the day, and then of course the next several days is supposed to be warmer and be in like the 70s and things like that, so I'm excited about that. But the shop's going to get pretty warm for some of the things that we got to do today. We got to do some heat treating. Now, before we get into the whole process of what we're doing today, I did want to clarify something. So when it comes to the daily vlogs, a lot of them are based on me just kind of filming the process of what I'm doing as I'm building up to being a full-time knife maker. Now, of course, I've already transitioned into this being my primary income, but I'm still having to get used to the process of doing this. What makes myself efficient, what makes myself inefficient, just working towards being a better full-time knife maker. And I'm only about a week into this, so I'm slowly figuring out things that I need to do better process-wise. I'm going to get into it, but we'll see how it goes. I'll just get into the swing of the things as I start doing it and start figuring out what doesn't work and what does, and then just focus on what does work and make it better. Now, for the things that we got to work on today, we got to get some pre-heat treat bevels ground in. We got to do the heat treating, so we got to do some normalizing, thermal cycling / grain refinements, and then we got to get some quenching done, and then get them all ready to be able to be tempered. That's what we're working on today. I'm going to show you all the highlights of what we're working on, and if we talk during it, we talk. If we don't, we don't. We'll figure out as we go. Guys, let's jump into it. Let's get this thing knocked out. So now we're going to go ahead and grind some pre-heat treat bevels. I've already got a center line marked on here. I'm just going to grind down to that and bring it up to about 1/3 of the height of the blade. That way we can go ahead and quench. I'm going to do that on all 4 of these right here. And then I've already got 2 that are already ground, so we're going to heat treat a total of 6 blades today. Should probably also mention, this is a 36 grit Norton Blaze belt that has been used on several knives. I like to use it to grind in these initial bevels for preheat treat so we don't end up ruining a brand new belt. But all I'm going to do now, repeat that on the other side, do it to the other 2 knives, and then we'll go ahead and get to the heat treat process. So with this heat treating process, we're going to start off with the first part being a normalizing cycle. We're going to bring all the blades up to 1600 degrees and then let them cool outside of the forge. The second step, we need to go ahead and do a grain refinement cycle, where we bring them up to 1400 degrees and then let them cool. Now for the quenching process, luckily all of these stills have a very similar heat treat process, so we're going to bring them up to between 1475 and 1500 degrees and then quench them in parks 50, making it nice and easy. Alright guys, so we were able to go ahead and start the quenching process. I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of them after I get done messing with this outro. Now, I can only do one at a time. It takes about 30 minutes for the oil to cool back down to the temperature that I need it to be in order to be able to quench another one. So I'm just kind of waiting out that time. Now, the other thing that I got to think through, and of course all of this will be done off camera because it's just tempering, but each of the steels are going to have a slightly different tempering process. So I'm going to be using my little oven that I have, the little toaster oven, to do some of the tempering. I'm going to be using my house oven to do some of the tempering, just to be able to go ahead and do that. Now, the EDC RV2 and the 1080 will both be tempered at 300 degrees for 2 hours twice, and then the other ones will be in the toaster oven, which is going to be the 26C3. Those are going to be at 275 for 2 hours times 2. The goal for that is for the 26C3s to be at about a 63, 64 hardness, which is going to be fine for the size of knife. If it was a huge knife, I wouldn't really do that, especially for something that's going to be an EDC. I would keep them right at about 60 to 61. But those I want to be kind of be ridiculous, because 26C3 is razor steel. It's what they use to make razors and scalpels and stuff like that. So we're going to be getting those right at about that 63, 64. Basically, I want a 65 file to just barely phase it. The other ones are going to be brought down to about 60 to 61 HRC. So as long as a 60 file skates, we're good, but a 65 bites, that's what we're looking for on those. So a lot of people think that every knife gets tempered at, especially if you're watching a lot of videos back to back to back to back, because it seems like all we do in the tempering process for every single knife that we temper, you could watch probably 50 YouTube videos back to back, and almost, I would say probably 49 out of 50 will tell you that they were tempered at 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2. That's not always the process that is going to happen for every single knife. There are different tempering processes and recipes to get the hardnesses that you're looking for, so there's something to think about. Without getting super crazy like Shop Talk Tuesday into this, it's one of those things where you got to think through where your hardness landed and then tempering it back to get the hardness that you want after the fact. Let's say you did your quenching process. This is going to get into some of the stuff. I know it's going to be helpful to some people. Let's say you got into your quenching process. You quenched a piece of 1084, and after the quench, it was 65 file skated because it was probably closer to like 68 HRC, but you wanted a 63 HRC after that. Well, then you would temper it for X amount of temperature for X amount of hours to be able to get down to 63. Let's say you were doing 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2 to go from 68 down to 63. Well, let's say you still wanted the 63 after the fact, but when it came out of the quench, it was only 65 HRC as opposed to 68. Would you still temper it for 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2? No, because then, and then I'm just throwing out numbers here, but then if you did the equivalent from 68 down to 63 and tried to achieve that with the same temper from 65 down to 63, it's not the way it would work. It'd go 65 down to like maybe 58, 59. So it's just something to think about there. You can go online and look at a lot of these recipes to figure out where your steel was after the quench, hardness wise, to get the tempering temperature and duration that you need to get down to a certain hardness. Now, a lot of these hardnesses go into play, whether it's going to be a chef's knife, whether it's going to be a camp knife, whether it's going to be an EDC. Some of those are going to have different heat treat or hardnesses, HRCs, so it's going to have a different heat treat process and tempering process to be able to achieve what you're really going for. A chef's knife is going to typically be one of the harder ones out of all of them. A camp knife is going to be one of the softer, more durable hardnesses out of them. So a lot of camp knives are going to be at that like 58 to 59 HRC. A lot of chef's knives are going to be 64, 65 HRC because they don't see as much abuse. They see more use, less abuse. The other knives see more abuse during the use. So just something to think about there. I know this was a long outro, but It's one of those things that you got to think through whenever you're doing the heat treat process. Not every heat treat process is the same for every single type of steel. They've got a different heat treat, they've got a different quench oil, they have a different tempering to be able to make sure you have the right hardness for the blade that you're making. Guys, that's the end of this one. If y'all would, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see y'all tonight, 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time for a live stream. Y'all have an amazing day. Stay safe. I'll see y'all next time.